Hello everyone and welcome to this webinar on a dark, almost winter's evening in the UK, where Simon and I will be talking about college counselling in particular and about how to make really good US college applications. We're going to talk a little bit about the statistics behind US applications and maybe a few scary data points, but also talk about what students and families can be doing to try and move the dial a bit. So I'm Jason. I am the founder of UES Education. I do a lot of college counselling at UES and do lots of work with schools and teachers and a lot of stuff on the testing side in terms of particularly accommodations and things. But Simon, do you want to say a bit about yourself as well?
Yes. So hi, everyone. My name is Simon Lewis. I'm co-founder of UES, and I'm also the head of college counselling. And a lot of my work here involves both advising students and supporting our college counselling team to support their own students. And one real passion of mine is about how we can best support students and working also with school partners and within the framework of those organisations that you see at the bottom of the slide, International ACAC and NACAC.
Great, thanks, Simon. Right, we're going to get started and talk a bit about what we do, first of all. And we are going to open it up to questions at the end. If you have questions while we're talking, please feel free to put them in the Q&A box, and we will answer them at the end, or if they're really pertinent, we'll try and answer them as we go. Okay, so what do we do at UES? We do a number of things. We are college counsellors, so we do support students applying to international universities. A lot of what we do is US college applications. You will see in a moment, if you didn't know already, that these are very complex and there are a lot of elements to a good US application, and that's why many people get college counselling support for that. We also work in schools, so we help students in schools, and we have counsellors who work in schools, acting as the college counsellor or university advisor in those schools, and we work privately with families as well. On the school side, we also train teachers. So we train teachers on American applications and how to help their students in school and what to advise them outside of school. We also convene groups of teachers. So we work with regional fora to get teachers together to discuss international applications, and really our aim is to try and increase awareness and understanding amongst schools. We also host universities, so we take groups of universities around schools, particularly in the London area, and we will host them when they come over and take them into schools, or host them at our offices in Marylebone. We also do a lot of work with international events, as Simon was saying, NACAC, International ACAC. We speak at International ACAC. We are active members of the committees and networks of those organisations. Why do we do this? Because, as Simon said, we're passionate about helping students and helping them increase their opportunities, particularly for overseas. Simon is now going to say some very scary statistics. So Simon grabbed these data together earlier. So first of all, total international students in the US in 22 to 23. Simon. So
there's about just over 1 million international students in the US in the last year. Obviously, at the moment, we're in 23 to 24, but we won't know about those until about a year's time. So there was growth of 10% up from 21 to 22, partly influenced because there was a dip due to COVID. We haven't quite got back to the peak of 1.095 million, which was in 2018 to 19, but we are, I think, heading there. I suspect next year we will surpass that, so that's exciting. And of those, 347,000 are international undergraduates. And from the UK, there are around 10,500 total enrolled students in the US, of which around 4,800 are undergraduates. Others are postgraduates and something called optional practical training. And the growth from last year was, significant, 3.6%. And this data is pulled from the IE Open Doors. At UES, we're working with approximately half of all successful applicants in the UK in each cycle. And the reason we know that is because we're working with around 800 students in each year, of which we estimate that around 600 of the 1,200 that go on from the UK to the US will be working with us. So in terms of total undergraduate enrollment in 22 to 23, we've got 20 million, which is around 1 in 20 being international, and that's from Statista. And we're going to talk now just about one trend that we're spotting in this cycle, which is that a number of flagship universities are seeing significant growth in the number of early applications. And most of them will have early action as opposed to early decision. Some of them, like the University of Virginia, have both, but Chapel Hill saw its volume grow by almost 14% in this cycle, which is significant. Jason, do you want to? Yeah. So, and Georgia received about 21% more early action applications than last year. So they would expect a large group of total applicants overall. That's from the UGA blog. And the University of Virginia received 42,000 early action and early decision applications. So that's a 3.4% increase from the 40,700 or so received for the class of 2027. So we're really seeing more students and more early applications, not earlier applications, but more students applying early. So this is the really significant statistic, I think. The number of distinct first-year applicants had applied to 834 colleges participating in the Common App. That represents an increase of 41% over 2019 to 20. So just take that in for a second, 41% more distinct applicants applying early, and a 12% increase, almost 89,000 more applicants over last year at this time. So we are definitely seeing an upward trend over the last few years. The total application volume rose 65%, and applicants are also applying to slightly more schools, so around 4 applications per applicant as opposed to 3.4. So at Yale, we are seeing sort of pretty similar numbers to last year. 7,866 applied to their single choice early action program, up about 1% on last year. That's the second highest ever. The record was in the class of 2025, which was 7,939. So these kind of trends of the most selective universities having very high numbers is here to stay. Okay, so in terms of the most selective universities, the acceptance rate will be as low as 1 to 2% for international students. What UK students would call second-tier colleges, I mean, we wouldn't really use that terminology at UES, but they may be around a 10%. And just for comparison, Oxford and Cambridge are around 15 to 20%. So in fact, there are 85 universities that are more selective than Oxford and Cambridge in the US.
Great, thanks, Simon. I think the point of these data is not to try and put anyone off. They're actually there to try and explain that American applications are very, very competitive, and even more so for international students in a lot of cases. And you really have to think very carefully about where you're applying and why in order to move the dial a bit. We'll talk more about that in a moment. A few predictions then for next year. Test optional is here to say we haven't spoken much about tests yet, but just to explain what test optional means, it means that most colleges don't require the SAT or ACT, but they will consider it if you submit it. There's a lot of confusion about that. We're not going to spend this webinar discussing that, but it does mean that you have to be very careful about your choice about testing, about whether to take the test, whether to submit it at all. We help people with the SAT and ACT at UES, but we don't always recommend it, but you do need to make that decision carefully and early. Most students will submit test scores. There will continue to be a correlation between submitting scores and gaining acceptance. That is a correlation, not a causation. It doesn't mean that submitting a good score will get you in, but it might prove something to the university that is useful in the application process. Application numbers will remain around the level seen in the last 2 cycles. It's not going down. It's going up, some cases going up quickly, certainly early ones are going up, and some cases remaining steady. Fit will continue to be a vital component. What we mean by this is finding the right fit universities. Universities in America want to know, why are you applying to us in particular? What have you got to offer our university? And students need to think about which universities are going to fit their ambitions, their values, their culture, their character, over a university that's next door. It's not about applying to all the universities that you know and hoping you get in. That's actually quite a bad strategy, and there are good reasons why. Early applications will continue to be vital. We're seeing way more people apply early through us, and one of the benefits of a college counsellor is that we can help students get their stuff together. I almost used a bad word. Get their stuff together early so that they're organised enough to concentrate on school and maximise their chances in school and in terms of their applications. Why is getting the right advice important? Well, for that reason. It's competitive, it's unpredictable. There are lots and lots of moving parts. Test strategy is more complex. It's not simply a case of an entrance test anymore. It's about what scores you get and where you submit them. The right college list is really, really important, and so is the early application strategy. As we said, fit is important. Demonstrating interest can be confusing. People don't always know what that means or why colleges consider it. Having someone to help you through that is important. School matters here. Simon works in a school. Many of our counsellors work in a school. The school's input is vital. You can't expect to do it on your own. You can't expect a college counsellor to do it for the school. Everyone's got to work together. But that school input has to match what you are saying about yourself as an applicant, and everyone needs to communicate properly on that. There are many other nuances to this process that very few people understand, and that is what a good college counsellor should do. The margins are very, very fine, as you've seen. One data point can really change things, and in some cases, saying the wrong thing or the right thing in an essay can really change the chances of admission. So there are lots of elements to a US application. We're not going to spend ages talking about all of these because there are so many, but just let it be said that it's not like a UK application, which really is about your academics and proving that you're good enough for that subject. In the US, yes, that's important, but also they take your interest in that subject with a bit of a pinch of salt because you may change your mind when you're at a US university. It's really about showing that you're academically capable, that you're intellectually curious, that you have the right kind of character and values that the university is expecting. So showing that in the most interesting and efficient way as possible is important, and there are lots of elements in that. So Simon is going to talk now a little bit about how college counselling can help with that.
So these are some of the ways in which we are kind of working with families. So guiding students to build a distinctive academic and extracurricular profile. And I think by that, we really want to encourage students to lean into their interests and do more of what excites them. And this isn't about sort of tailoring yourself to the college. It's more about doing more of what you love. And therefore matching colleges to students to colleges where they'd be a great fit. We really want to ensure that students thrive when they get to college. It's not just about getting in, you've got to actually be there and graduate. So really understanding yourself and what makes you tick is really important to understanding what kind of experience at college will be the right one for you. We also offer advice on testing and early application strategies. ED there stands for early decision, and there's both ED1, which is usually early November, and ED2, which is usually early January. Those are the ones that are binding admissions programs where you need to accept the place if admitted. And early action is the non-binding one. Getting the right combination of those is really important. We will communicate with schools and in some circumstances with admissions officers as well. Now that's quite a sensitive topic, but we have experience in making sure that we frame those conversations in the right way and would only communicate in it when it's appropriate. We also review application essays. This is a really important aspect of the process. We really want to centre the student's own voice and make sure that they do the research to so that they are communicating their fit for the institution to which they're applying. We also review other aspects of the application, including artistic portfolios, which could be for things like fine art, animation, architecture. Performing arts programs have an audition, and we support students with those as well. And then alumni interviews typically take place in November for early applicants and January or February for regular applicants. I think this is really important as well, that we have that oversight of deadlines and application management. We're there to make sure that students don't lose sight of those and to help them with the whole process of applying to college. And with all of the above, our real goal is to reduce stress for families. It can be, a difficult time for not just students but parents as well. And our job is to sort of take that burden away from parents who may or may not have kind of gone through this with their children before, and just be guided by an expert who can reduce the stress and make sure everything runs smoothly. Now, in terms of the role of a college counsellor, we are really coordinating between lots of different groups of people. So on the one hand, we may be communicating closely with the school. We work very closely with our school partners. We are working very closely, obviously, with parents and students who often have a lot of questions about the process. And obviously, we're working mostly with the student to guide them in that application process, review of essays, and so on. In certain circumstances, we'll be communicating directly with the college. And our tutors in SAT and ACT, we're obviously in constant communication with them just about the process of applying and preparing for standardized tests. So we are doing an awful lot of coordination between different groups of people. So in terms of, if you are considering working with a college counsellor, we think there are really important questions to ask in terms of doing due diligence on the family's behalf. I think one of the first ones to consider is experience. So if you speak to a consultant, you want to ask whether they have experience either as a university admissions officer or working in a school facilitating international applications. Those we would consider are really essential elements to a good college counsellor. In terms of integrity, you want to be asking them whether they're a member of a professional association governing international admissions. We mentioned International ACAC and NACAC. Those are two of the bodies, in fact, they're linked, governing international applications. We also want, you also want to think about transparency. So you should be asking, what size is your caseload? How many students are you advising? Are you honest with students about their chances of success? Is your fee structure clear and published online? And what relationships do you have with colleagues in admissions and in schools? I think that's really important, because this is a lot of this is a relationship based process. And are you student centered? What is your understanding of fit in the US admissions process? I think that's a really crucial thing for counsellors to understand about students and universities. And then safeguarding is obviously incredibly important. Are all of your advisors enhanced DBS checked, and did they receive safeguarding training? That's something that is essential to working at UES. It's essential to all of our work, particularly as we work so closely with schools, that we have very stringent standards in terms of safeguarding, and our counsellors receive safeguarding training annually as well.
Thanks, Simon. And moving on from that, what does UES offer? Well, we of course offer those things, and we take great pride in our experience. We have college counsellors who have worked and do work in schools in the UK or in other countries, and in some cases have worked as university admissions officers. We take integrity very seriously. We are members of NACAC. We adhere to their codes of conduct. We are very transparent with people. It's on our website how much we cost, and we're very honest with people about whether we have actually got the ability to work with people in terms of caseloads. This, by the way, is a time of year when we try to finalise our caseloads for the next year. So we're very careful about who we're working with and how many people we're working with. Global network, we're members of International ACAC, as I said. We present there, we were on committees there, and we're very well networked within those networks of universities. We are student-centred. It's the student who's most important. Their happiness in the end is what matters. Of course, we want parents to be happy, but if there's a disconnect between student and parent happiness, we want to be the people who can help to fix that. And we take safeguarding very, very clearly and importantly. I am the DSL at UES. We follow what the latest requirements are by schools, because we work closely in schools, we run courses in schools. We know what the latest advice is from the government on safeguarding. And finally, communication. This is the thing that we take, I suppose, put most importance on. And I think that a lot of people don't ask college counsellors when they're signing up with them about what level of communication they have with the student, with the family, with the school. It's not a case of doing a course. You don't sign up and expect to have one meeting every 2 weeks and that's it. This is a job where the college counsellor has to understand all the moving parts and all those main people involved. That's the student, the family, the school, the university, and in some cases, academic mentors or tutors, to understand where does the student fit within that, and making sure there is clear communication and it's consistent communication between everyone. Here's a nice testimonial from last year, I think. I think this is one of Simon's students. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
So a nice enthusiastic one there. And Boulder, by the way, is the college that I would go to if I was going back to college. So well done.
I just wanted to say one thing about that one, actually. It was such a great fit for the student that it was just a really lovely process, because they realized very early on that they actually wanted to go to Boulder. This was somebody who was very keen on aerospace engineering and snowboarding, and Boulder does those both excellently.
Very good. Yeah, I'm not going to bang on about Boulder. I do that every time anyone mentions it. If you want to talk to us about college counselling, and I think some of you on the call may have done already, but you can book in a free consultation with us. That will be with me or Simon, or maybe one of our other colleagues, Martine, to discuss college counselling and see if we're the right fit for you and find the right advisor for you. So you can book in through ueseducation.com/free-call. And then finally, a little bit more about what we do. We've got some events coming up. If you look on that events link, you will see that next year we have mock admissions event for students, parents and teachers. That's probably our biggest event of the year, which we're running at Wetherby in Marylebone. Has normally 120 or so people there. Lots of universities where you get to play the part of an admissions officer and understand what they're looking at when they're judging students. We also have courses for the SAT and ACT. I should actually caveat now and say that it's very, very likely you will do the SAT. If you need to do the ACT, we can do that privately, but probably not through courses, and that's because about 95% of people do SAT now. There are various reasons for that, which I won't go into. But anyway, next SAT course starts this Saturday, 16th of December. It's a 4-day short course. There are also other courses next year, and there's private tuition, of course. We have a diagnostic test here, which will tell you which test is the right test for you. And if any of you are interested in sports scholarships or looking at being a recruited athlete in America, slightly different process. Probably a lot of overlap between what we've said and what a sports consultant would say. But nevertheless, there are some differences in terms of how you go about getting selected and what level you need to be at. So we can put you in touch with people that we trust on that front. There's our general contact details, but you can see our free call link at the top there. And if you want to get in touch with us, please book in a call. So that is all of the presentation for the moment. I'm just going to go back to that, leave that up there while Simon and I speak. But if anyone has any questions, please feel free to bung them into the Q&A box now, and we will answer them. I always say there are no silly questions, just silly people. There are no silly people on this call, I'm sure. But if you have any questions, put them in the Q&A box and we'll answer them. While we're waiting, Simon, I'm going to put you on the spot now. I'm going to fire you questions that people fire us when they're asking about college counselling. So first of all, how do we judge success in terms of college counselling?
Yeah, it's a really good question, actually. And I think that what we determine as success is that at the end of the process, we feel like the student and actually the whole family has kind of grown in their understanding and knowledge of themselves and what's best for them. So I would say it is quite a sort of qualitative process in many ways in terms of the outcomes. At the same time, obviously, we want to support students to get into one of their top choice universities, but that can actually change throughout the process. So I would sort of put first that experience of a good college counselling relationship is probably the most important thing. And then, you know, understanding yourself through the process, having a really good mentor, and then finally getting into a university that you're genuinely excited about, having a really good list that makes sure that you're going to have several options at the end of the process. All of those are really important, and that's how I would define success within that relationship.
Yeah, I agree. I normally say, when people say, what's your success rate? I say, well, it's pretty close to 100%, because everyone's going to get in somewhere from the list of colleges. And if we've done our job properly, people are happy with their list of colleges. Does everyone get into their top college? No, because the top college on their list should be a reach college. And if everything goes really well and you have a bit of luck, you might get in. And we really try hard to move the chances there. But not everyone will get that top college. But if they get into their second or third choice on their list, they should be really, really happy. And most students will come away with several offers, or decisions rather. And it's that nice time of year where our students who have applied early, which is all of them, are starting to get their decisions. And tonight is a big night. It's the Ivy League decision date. So of course there will be students of ours applying to Ivy League. I know I've got a few waiting for decisions tonight, and hopefully I'll wake up tomorrow to good news. Fingers crossed. Okay, another question for you then, Simon. Why does college counselling cost this much money? And we're very honest about our prices, but why should someone spend this sort of money on an advisor? And maybe add to that, when's the best time to start?
So I think firstly, the reason that it costs a lot is, I think, twofold. Firstly, what you're paying for is the time of the counsellor, and there could easily be, somewhere 60 to 70 hours of work that goes into a full set of applications, sometimes more than that. And the second reason is you're paying for expertise. So you're paying for somebody who's been through this journey many times before with many different students, can anticipate and guide in many different scenarios. So I think that's why there is a cost associated with it. I would really see it as an investment. And just thinking about that testimonial, we obviously have a certain fee level, but the student received $25,000 per year over 4 years. So that's worth $100,000. So actually, it was a really good return on investment for that family to have that guidance through the process. And I think I would definitely see it in those terms rather than just an expense. Obviously, you don't have to use a college counsellor in applying to US colleges, but we really find that the families we work with really see the value. We're often working with those families for a significant amount of time, often through to April of up sixth, and sometimes even beyond that as well. And even checking in with them to find out how they're settling in a college at the beginning of their time as freshmen. In terms of when's the best time to start, well, I think early is always the answer to that question. And the sooner that you can start thinking about the kind of conversations to do with college, it may, for example, in year 11, or 10th grade, there may be academic choices that you make that might have an impact on where you might be able to apply in terms of majors and so on later down the line. So A-level choices, for example, IB higher or standard level choices. So having some input from a college counsellor at that point can be really helpful. We do even work with students before that who want to sort of get some idea of where their interests might lie. We do a lot of diagnostics at the beginning of the process, but really encouraging students to get involved and do the things that they enjoy. The more of that they do, the more that will bear fruit in the application. Sorry, the light's just gone off in this room, so I need to.
Okay, well, it's good timing. Thank you. And just to finish up there, as I said earlier, we're finalising our cohorts for this year. So if you're interested in college counselling, please do get in touch, and we'll make sure that you're matched with the right advisor. We tend to close our books, well, at the end of next week, at the latest. So it just remains for me to say thank you, Simon, for coming down here in the rain to do this webinar. And I hope to see some of you on the call again on one of these consultation calls. So Simon, thank you.
Thanks very much.